Welcome to Stay in 4. I'm your host, Terrence. Joining me today, we have a loaded, full roster of people here, as you can see on the screen. Welcome to the show, guys. For the women, we have April Gooden, Timicia Blue, Charnetta Williams, Chanel Flagger, and Brittany Crutchfield. Welcome, ladies.
Hey.
All right, and let's switch it over to the guys. We have Daniel Smith, Wilbert Ricks, Aaron Singleton, and BJ Wise. Welcome, gentlemen.
What's
going on?
Hey.
All right, so today's topic is fatherhood. Daniel, what does fatherhood mean to you?
Fatherhood to me is more or less about setting the example, showing my daughter primarily, how a man is supposed to be, how she should be treated as a woman, and seeing the Black love that I shared between me and her mother. So fatherhood is a beautiful thing. It's not always easy, but I feel like, it's something that is just, you get your reward in seeing your kids grow up and leading the lives that you've laid out for them.
Nice. Yeah. Brittany?
So for me, fatherhood is about being there, right? It's just being present, being there in their life, being there for the good, the bad, the ugly, everything. Like, I don't hold it to any higher or less regard than motherhood. I look at it as it's the same. There's a reason why you need a mother and a father. There's certain things that the world can teach you, your mom can teach you, but for some reason, when you get it from your dad, the delivery, the way you receive it, is just a little bit differently. So as from a female's perspective, your dad is the first man you're gonna fall in love with, like that you're gonna ever know love, that you're gonna ever receive love, that you're gonna ever really show love to. So that's like that first person. He sets the standard on how you receive love in your life from that point on. So I feel like it's everything. It's just as important as being a mom. It's just about being there, being present.
Ricks.
Yeah, I have to mirror everything that they just said. I mean, I know my son is 26, and to look at where he was and to look at where he is now, we've had our battles, and I've raised them. It was a point where I just didn't know. I'm just doing what I was taught, and to look where he is now, he's an attorney in Italy. It's mind blowing. It's mind. To know
What's
that
mind-blowing?
It's mind-blowing
that you're 26. It's mind-blowing that you have a 26-year-old son. I'm mind-blown right
now.
Yeah, no, I can dig it. I can dig that. I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, your age is already told. I can dig it. I got you.
No, I'm every bit a 50-year-old, 53-year-old. I'm every bit of it.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good
to hear a younger generation, just get involved with their kids, man, which we do anyway, to be honest with you. I think we do this anyway. We just don't get credited for it.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Timicia.
Definitely got to talk about that one.
We will. We're going to get there. Timicia, what does fatherhood mean to you?
Unconditional love. And I feel like I've always been less judged by my dad than I have my mom. Not that she's super judgy, but I just feel like I've been able to tell my dad more things and then not have to worry about how he would feel about it or how he would look at me. It's more or less been, I felt like it was really unconditional love. But believe me, it didn't start off that way. Like that relationship is now that I'm an adult, not when I was a child. So maybe that has something to do with it, but definitely.
April Gooden.
Fatherhood. Wow. I'm a little bit older than you guys, except for Ricky, about the same age. But yeah, I lost my father about 40 years ago. So I have fond memories growing up. And he was a big role model to all of us. And just looking up to him and getting advice from him, throughout the years. A lot of the stuff didn't make sense when we were younger. A lot of the stuff was a lot of criticism. But I think it shaped us as adults and for the younger generation to give advice and just to be there for everyone. My mom is a big part of all of our lives, but my father was the matriarch of the family. So when I think of fatherhood, especially with Father's Day coming up and people that want to be fathers, you know, they have a big shoes to fill. It's not like, you know, something you can take lightly. So I tell people that if you want to start a family and you want to be there for a kid, you have to look inward and really think about the life that you're going to be putting out there in the world to be able to change the world the way it is with everything that's going on. So fatherhood's a big thing for me. My mom's a big part, but I think women with mothers and women with fathers, it's a different relationship, because I think it shapes your personal relationships with men with the relationship that you have with your father.
Yeah. Aaron?
Fatherhood is about like responsibility. And when you look at fathers today, they have to bear a lot, and they have to take on a lot with the title of being a father. So I think responsibility is a main key. Anybody can impregnate a woman and have a child, but when you really take on the role and the responsibility of being a father, it's almost like your name changes to dad. And for you to be called dad means that you absolutely have a relationship and a responsibility to that seed that you have. And a lot of people just kind of like throw that seed to the side and whatnot. But when you really take on that responsibility and you begin to nurture that child and you begin to bond and have a relationship, your name changes from that's my father because I don't really know him to a relationship where that's my dad and whatnot. And you begin to really culture and have value in that name of a dad, and like no one can take that away from you. So
I just want to get a couple more in before we actually change gears. Chanel?
First off, everything you guys said is beautiful, but I'm going to add to it. For me, fatherhood is about protection. My dad, you know, up until I was 17, he was in my life. And honestly, those were the best years of my life. You know, when it came to boys, he was like, you're not messing with that boy. And I'm happy he was strict with me because I could have turned out to be something different. So right. I praise my father for that, for being a protector for me and for teaching me what it means to love myself. My dad taught me that. And even though he's not in my life as of right now, I still respect him because he raised my youth. And the things that he taught me is I'm going to instill in my son and future kids. So Dad, I love you.
Charnetta?
Yeah, fatherhood for me is about being there, being present. The relationship with the father, even from, it's different if you're a girl, different if you're a boy, but the father is just that presence, that figure where, for instance, like, you know, it's like the mom says, I'm going to tell your dad, you know, and then you straighten up, you know, it's just not only just the disciplinary aspect of it, but just the respect of it and the glue of the household and all of that. So fatherhood for me is very special. And even though like my dad wasn't there in the beginning, he became a part of my life later on. And the time, there was no grudge, you know, it was a little awkward in the beginning, but even though he wasn't there, I still wanted him in my adulthood life. And so, I mean, if you're a father who maybe wasn't there, you're feeling some type of way about reaching out to your child, you know, don't. Your child is still going to love you regardless.
And BJ.
Wow, this is a great topic. Everybody has some great things to say. Britt being there, Rich, the battles, Misha, unconditional. April, I mean, I'm sorry that you lost your father too, because I mean, I know that I share the same thing as you. And, but I do find comfort in the fact that I'm happy for the father that I had, you know, and I could have had any father in the world, I could have had anybody, but he was there and he was trying. I mean, I know, and to go back to what you said, Rick, I mean, after losing my father, the battles that we would have for me and him growing up, and the battles was me battling him and battling his direction, you know? And after losing him, I see the benefits of a lot of those battles that he was fighting that he never let up off of me, you know? So those were very big points. Aaron, responsibility. I mean, as a man, to make these kids, regardless if they're planned or not or what, like we have a responsibility to take care of ours and to not leave the women to pass and to be like one of the staples of life. You have to be the biggest person in the room, which goes in what Chanel was saying is protection. You got to be your kids have to see you as a protector and see you respected, like what Netta said, by everybody else too, and to see how people perceive you as a man. And then, I mean, all of these things that what everybody said, I feel goes inside. I mean, this is great.
Yeah, it's really good. Thanks, B. Daniel, what are some of the misconceptions about Black fathers in America, you believe?
That we're not present. And, I think a lot of times they try to make it seem as if Black fathers are absent fathers. And that's just not true. I mean, if you even look at the CDC stats, it says that 42% of Black children live with two parents. So for us to be absent fathers, then that stat wouldn't exist, because you would say that that we're not doing what we're supposed to do. So I think that's the biggest myth, is that we're absent fathers. We go out and we sleep with women, we make babies, and then we disappear. And that's just not true. We as Black fathers are actually more present than some of the white fathers in the household, and the things that we do in the household. A lot of them get success and they leave it to just the parent or a nanny and stuff to do it. Whereas Black fathers are actually present doing the things that we need to do within the household, being that matriarch, as April said about the family. I know that's how I'm looked at here. So I think that's the biggest part, is the misconception that we're not present when we are.
Timicia, you were saying something when Daniel said that, but you was on mute. So I want to come to you.
Yeah, he said the thing about nannies, and I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, and most of my neighbors were raised by their nannies. Like their parents were on trips and working, the fathers, their mothers were living lives of leisure, and they were raised by their nannies. So that is very true.
And I bet those nannies were black women mostly,
Black
too.
and Hispanic. Hispanic, yes.
So
it's very weird to come to my single mom home and see that me and my mom ate dinner together every night. Because my dad wasn't there, but they thought it was very weird. They did.
So Daniel, I want to come back to you. When you say that the misconception is that fathers are not present, where does that stereotype come from if it's not true?
I think more people look at it as in the movies, and just, the things that our Black women are vocal. So a lot of white women don't put their baby daddies or, their fathers on blast as much as we do. So I think from seeing that, they get a misconception that we're not present. And instead of just looking at, there's a lot of facts out there that are put on Black people that it just isn't true. When you even look at, financial aid assistance and food stamps and all of that stuff is put on us as if it's to down Black people in a sense. And it's just not true. We are actually very present in our homes and doing the things that we need to. So I think they may get it from movies or, just trying to see what society message that is pushed out there versus looking at the facts for what they are.
So if it's 42%, that other percentage, which is obviously much higher, right? Because you said 42% is present. Right. Yeah. So the other 58.
In a two-parent home.
Yeah, but I was saying a two-parent household. I was saying where we both was there. Yeah. So that's with them living too.
But the other aspect of that, they're not present. Right. So I think also that's where it comes from, because that's me, where it's one parent. I'm in that other percentage and I'm sharing that story.
But that doesn't mean that the Black dad isn't present. It's just saying, hey, for them to say that we just have kids and run off, that 42% is dispelling that myth. But just because, like, for instance, my mom and dad started out together, they got divorced, but my dad was very much present. He was always there. He'd always took me to teach the lessons that I needed to learn. He would come pick us up and spend time with us. So that's why I think the misconception is that, hey, it's a single parent household. Okay, but that doesn't mean both parents are still not involved. My mom and dad had a great relationship.
And I want to raise this, like, what exactly do we want? Do we want both parents to exist in the family, in the household, or are we okay if the dad is just present and he shows up twice a week to bring you a lollipop? Is that suffice? Is that okay?
we really need to get back to the way we were years ago. Our grandparents, they may not always have gotten along, but they stayed together for the bigger picture. You know, they had these kids, they had huge families back then. And I mean, the grandfather would go out and work, come home, and it was a basic family structure. Mother did what she did in the house, father did what he did out of the house. He would cut up too. You wouldn't hear about it until later when he passed away. You were like, oh wow, we didn't know he had another family. You kept your family, you kept your core together. And I mean, you just dealt with it. You dealt with it. I watched my dad. I mean, listen, I grew up with phases. I didn't really like my dad at first because I thought he was like, you're treating my mom bad because you're drunk. However, as I got older and I started to become a father myself, I kind of I remembered what he was going through. And I was like, wow, I don't know how this guy got up and went to work. You drank, you got high, but you continued to go to work and come back. It's like, what DNA is that, man? You know, so, but all of that rubbed off. We need to get back to that. We may have our faults. Let's try to just work through that. You can't run from your faults. You can't run from, you're not going to be perfect, is what I'm saying. So if we stay inside of a structure, you know how you may have family members who are like assholes. You don't throw them away. You still try to embrace them and try to work with it. If you get where I'm going.
I totally understand. And my personal experience, I only met my father 4 times, which was prior to the age of 27. I met him 4 times. And when I lived with him for an entire year, I had to learn this man completely in 1 year. And towards the end, I mean, Brittany knows, she got the opportunity to meet him and come to Connecticut. But it was one of those things where it was like what Rick said. I had to learn him, meet him where he was, and kind of like just deal with it and understand who this guy was. You know, like at that time, back in '86, he just wasn't ready to be a father. And I didn't understand that when I was 10 years old, 15 years old, 22, 23. But when I lived with him for the entire year, I said, I get it. You wasn't ready. You wasn't mentally and just physically ready to be who I needed you to be in that moment. And that's why you wasn't there. So now at the age of 34, I 100 and probably 10% forgive him because he tried the best that he could. It is what it is. You gave what you gave. It wasn't much, but you did what you could. And it is what it is. And I feel like I'm a better man because of it. And there's a quote where they say, every man or even a childless or somebody that don't have the father in the home, they'll have a hole inside of the heart the size of their father, as long as they're not there. You know what I mean? And I think the only way that I'm going to replace that hole is maybe when I have my own kids and giving that love that I didn't receive from my father. That's the replacement, I believe. Aaron, how do you feel about this topic?
I'm trying to gather my thoughts and then also figure out how deep and how back we want to go, because I feel like as an educator, I feel like as an educator, right? We have to look at going back to slavery, right? And I got to speed this up, but we were a threat. Black men were a threat, and when we were separated from our family, we were sold away from our family. The children and mothers were allowed to stay, but the white men knew how much of a threat the family unit was. So they purposefully tried to separate us. So I understand what Rick is saying about getting back together, but there has been so much systemic racism and barriers in the Black race that we don't even know how to break or get back to, because it was engraved in us. We knew how much of a hose bar we were. So when you say get back to, some people don't even know what the idea of making is.
That's deep.
Yeah, we're not the nuclear family. Like, we're not. We not the white picket fence. That's not us. We have to dream that and then do it to make that example, as opposed to that being our baseline. So I understand that wholeheartedly.
I mean, that brings up a question, like so somebody in assistance like T, right?
Yep.
You weren't raised with a father. You then have a son. How do you learn? Like, how do you know how to be a dad? Like, how do you know what to do when you've never experienced that? You've never had that yourself. Are you confident that you're going to be a good dad? Like, you know?
Oh
like,
yeah. I'm beyond confident. I'm beyond confident.
I think it's the absence of that teaches us how to be something that primarily wasn't there, because we can teach off of what we wanted.
I was going to say, because I grew up in the entertainment field, but my father was a lead singer, the main ingredient. My mother was a singer. My brothers are actors. So when my dad was off of the road, he would come and, you know, be a father as much as he could. But before the music started, so we're talking about up until the time I was like, I don't know, 10 years old, I had my dad as a regular dad. So people always assume with entertainers that they don't have like a regular life, but we had crazy relatives. We had, my parents were fighting over this, that, and the other, but they still had to show a face and be there, as an entertainer. But the rules and everything that they had for us growing up were just the same as just like everybody else. We had crazy relatives that weren't allowed to come around. We had, disagreements, and what you guys have to deal with now, growing up, trying to start families. I really feel sorry for you, because like what Ricky was saying, it was a different way and a different time back then when I was growing up, opposed to what you guys have to deal with now, which is hard.
That's
so
very deep, because I wanted to ask, like, well, go ahead.
Yeah, I really feel for you guys to have to start a family, because I never had kids. I would just borrow them and give them back. It's cute to rent them, but to have them day to day, and like Will has every day, oof, I don't know. My patience level is small. So it's a lot. It's a big responsibility.
You see Will keep on disappearing off of the screen. That's because he's yelling at all 5 of his kids.
You need to get your shoe.
Try not to
Go get
jump
your stick.
out the sliding glass door on top of these boys. Like literally, I need 45 minutes of silence,
That is unheard of.
Right.
Constant, you bickering and fighting each other for no reason. I don't get it. And then this boy I hear yell at the top of his lungs. I promise you, I would have left the screen and came back so fast.
But it's good to see that live example of fatherhood in action.
And we're gonna leave that in there too. We're gonna leave that in there. Chanel, you had a question.
No, I was saying to April, like with your father being on the road, like when he came back, because I don't know how long he's been on the road that you haven't seen your father. So let's say he's been gone for like 2 or 3 months at a time doing tours. Like when he come home, was it like that same reaction? Did you have any regrets, especially like as you're growing up, becoming a teenager and experiencing certain things? Like, where's my daddy at? I need my father.
Exactly.
Did you have any resentments like that?
Well, yeah, I had a lot of resentment as I was an adult, actually, because the communication level wasn't there as a kid. Because you know how you are as kids. It's like, you guys don't understand. This is grown folks business. Now we're adults and I can talk to you they always see you as a child. They never see you as a grown adult. So the things, it's really sad, because I got a really good relationship with my father towards the end, because I got the confidence as I got older to be able to say whatever I wanted to say. We had fights and arguments and stuff, but we became closer. So I think I was really getting towards the end of the brink of the things that I had problems with as an adult, and then he passed. That's why I always tell people to spend time, no matter what relationship you have with an adult, as far as a mother or a father, because you never know. You never know.
I'm sure he was like, and when you was with him, was you like 12 years old when you was with your father, even though you're a grown woman? Did you still feel like,
oh yeah,
every time you see your father, like, yo, I'm 14 years old?
Right, they still don't see you as an adult. So
like, you
I would
still
say
in
to the Black
time out,
too.
you get punishment. You still in punishment as a grown woman.
Same thing. And I'm like, I'm an adult and everything. Tell him about relationships with men. He was like, well, just pick one. You have to pick somebody. I'm like, I don't want to be with him. You know what I mean? So it's But anyway,
so I do have a question for Chanel real quick. Nell, how old is Kendall?
Kendall's 8.
8. Okay. Can a woman really teach her son how to be a man? And that is the question that I'm going to throw out there.
Yeah, that's deep. From my personal experience, I'm going to say no. You know, I appreciate a man's presence in raising a child. I couldn't teach my kid how to pee in the toilet. That was the most awkward thing. I sit on the toilet. So when he was like using the bathroom for the first time, like he would sit on the toilet and put his little thingy down. And I had to say to myself, yo, he's a boy. Like he can't be doing that. I mean, maybe if he has to take a number two, but it was like certain things where I'm like, okay, I can't really be doing my hair and doing things around him because he's going to pick up on my habits. And, you know, having that man influence is very important in any child's life. And for my son, I do have male role models. He has his brothers, he has godfathers and people that really come together to groom him to be the man that he is. So as far as women saying that they could raise a man to be a man, I personally don't agree with it. But sometimes when you're in that situation where you kind of have to do the best you can.
Aaron?
I agree. I mean, it burns me up when I see some people for Father's Day give honor to their mother or get Father's Day cards for their mother and try to do stuff like that because of the gap that's missing. And it continues to throw salt in that wound that, you know, there's an absentee figure there. And until you either address that issue or learn to find resources like uncles and godfathers and other males that can help you teach you to be a male, there's always going to be a void, and you have to address that void in order to heal and move on.
And Daniel, you had a comment.
No, I agree with what Chanel was saying. I was giving her a virtual high five just because a lot of women will be like, yes, I can, you know, do it. But I'm just glad that my mother realized that, and for stuff that we would ask her, she'd be like, don't ask me that, go call your dad. Instead of trying to address it and figure it out. So I was there, and then on April's comment of getting close with her dad towards the end, you know, I'm approaching the 1 year kind of, I don't even say anniversary, but the 1 year since my dad passed. So I lost my dad in June of last year. And we had gotten so close to the fact that where I was about to be his caregiver here. He had moved here, bought a house here where I lived at. And so for your, you know, when you said that, always take the time to spend time with your parents and really connect with them, you know, especially, you know, if they've done something bad in the beginning, try to fix it, because at the end of the day, they gave you that DNA to push and be from there. So always try to connect and see where they go with that.
So I often ask myself, excuse me, if this guy who I barely know just passed away, would I feel anything? Would there be any type of grief? Or do you just say, you know what, you haven't been there for the last 30 something years, I'm okay?
I feel like you still feel a loss. Like the things that you could have had, you lost also. Right. So you're still in a state of a loss. I sort of felt that way when my dad's mother passed away. And I kept saying, I was sad for my father because he had that relationship with her, but I didn't. But I still felt a loss for my kids because they didn't have a relationship with her, and I didn't have a relationship with her. So you still feel a loss. It's just you might not have those memories and the happy moments and stuff like that, and then you don't have the time to make those or develop those. So you still have a loss. So
I feel,
and I would say, go ahead, Will.
Well, I was just gonna say, you know, with the passing and not having the opportunity to make those connections, you've also lost the opportunity too. Like there's you don't have the chance anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. It's key, like T, and if you haven't, or anybody who hasn't out there, if you haven't, you know, just spout off exactly what's needed to be said. Because there was a moment where me and my dad didn't see eye to eye, but one day I just sat down and I just wrote everything out. I rewrote it to where I got it to where it sounded good, and I just sent it to him. I didn't care if he responded, didn't care, but he had to know how I felt. And at the end of the day, that was my calming moment and my relief, because I was saying, hey, at the end of the day, if something does happen to you, you knew how I felt. So and I gave you the opportunity to try to fix it from there.
Yeah. Oftentimes, like the dad, if he doesn't get along with the mother, he'll kind of just say, you know what, I'm just leaving the whole situation in general, and I'm out of here. to try to get back at her. But like, what do you guys think about that? When the pops are just like, hey, you know what? Hey, you take care of the kid. I'm out of here. I don't like you and all
That's
that.
selfish.
Selfish.
That's a coward. That's a coward. Because if I'm gonna lay down with that lady and have sex with her and knew that as a result of us having sex, this could be a possibility, then I need to man up and take care of my responsibilities. Don't use that as a way to say, well, I really didn't like you. I was just lusting after you. Now I'm out. No, if something happened, take care and man up.
But what about if I just, real quick, what about if I just met her last night and I happen to get her pregnant? Right. And then
that's what happens when you have sex. That's the result of sex. Unprotected sex. That's the result of unprotected sex.
Well, the condom could have popped. Anything could have happened. You just never know, right? And now you're forced to be there. But
only 12 different types of birth control, but yeah, okay.
Right. Mama, I'm just saying, do you want to deal with her for the rest of your life? Like, you men just have to think about that. Do you want to deal with this woman that you just met in the club, shaking her ass on everybody?
Come on, Timicia.
For the rest of your life. Because it's not 18 years, it's for the rest of your life.
That goes for women too. I mean, you can go out and have a one-night stand and then you stuck with his little mongoloid looking crazy baby. Yeah. One-eyed. Maybe not mongoloid. Gargoyle.
Rick, you look like you're in thought right now. I want to come to you.
There's a situation. I'm actually watching my neighbor go through the same thing, kind of like of what I went through. He has 4 kids. He is a solid stand-up guy, and he works every day, takes care of his kids, and the 2 that aren't. So now all of them are brown-skinned kids, but you got one Drake-looking kid. You know, she stepped out, and she admitted she stepped out. What is this guy to do? How does he save his self-esteem? How does he continue? He sits at the dinner table and he looks over at that kid. Come on, let's just be honest. I mean, come on, it's going to be a lot of resentment in that house.
Yeah, the steak don't taste the same. The steak don't taste the same no more.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Oh, it will not.
That's tough.
I take it out on the kid though? Would you take it out on the kid?
No, you're not taking it out on the kid, but it's like,
okay,
you're going to grow to love that kid, whether the kid had 2 legs or 1 leg. It's just that you're going to look at that mother and you're just every day that you come home after you put in those hours of work. How could you? How could you?
Those are relationship problems.
Always turn the opposite. Men are and it shouldn't be either way. It's both parties. You have some really dysfunctional women and men.
Yeah.
They never see the way out.
Very toxic.
Yeah, very, very.
Hey, Timicia, okay, sis.
I'm just saying, a lot of women are very toxic and they are super comfortable in what they are. They are. And I've seen plenty of these situations. I've seen men do it. I've seen women do it. I've seen people accept. I've seen people say, you know what, I don't want nothing to do with your outside child or you. So, so you but if you decide to be in that situation, you have to do the work so that the child doesn't have resentment.
Right.
Your kids don't see them as any different. Because if the ultimate goal is that you've decided to stay with this woman despite what she did, because you guys want to and build this family and make this legacy.
I agree. But
do the work. Like, it's gonna take you a month of like.
Well, no, I'm not doing no work because she might do what she did again. So there's no
That's
work.
a lot.
I'm not doing no work.
Do that again, then you gotta make a different decision next time. That different decision is gonna be like, you know what? You're gonna have to take you and your child, and y'all have to find someplace else to live. Like, you have to have those hard conversations and you have to make those decisions.
Where's the bell, T? Ding, ding.
That's a hard person to ask for them to raise an outside child. That's a lot that you're asking.
It's a lot.
Because you have trust to rebuild with that spouse. Then you now have this child, this constant reminder every single day. Every time you look, it's a reminder of what you went through. Like, that's you to ask that from somebody, male to female or female to male, either way. it's almost borderline selfish, right? It's
We have to
borderline
go-
selfish
We have
to
to get
ask
Drake
for
out the
that.
pool.
It
We have to
is.
get Drake out the pool because y'all going home.
Say that again, B. What you
We
said?
gonna go ahead and get Drake out the pool because he got to dry off and y'all going home.
Right. No, for real.
But no, I understand that. It just will have to be a lot of work to preserve that family unit. That's just what it would be.
And it seems he's made that decision. It seems he's
because you have that situation. What happens when their father wants to come back into their life?
Right.
That for 10 years. And then all of a sudden they're
Now he wants to be.
Yeah.
So like those dynamics are going to continue to change. Those issues are going to continue to arise. You just have to be committed to working through them. When it happens, you decide that this is what you're going to do. Woman to man, man to woman, whatever it is, you have to be committed. Because me, myself, like my daughter's father, he has a son that's younger than both of my girls. And I know in my mind that I personally don't want to be a stepmother to his son. I don't. I do not want to.
Why not?
Because just like she said, it's a constant reminder. And I can't sit and block that out. Then when you have a child, like we had our first daughter, he was a wonderful father. There for everything, wanted to be present, etc., etc. Same thing with our second daughter. Then he fell off a little bit. And it was
So
like,
hold on, let's pause right there. That's the question. Why did he fall off? Because if he was a wonderful father with one, a wonderful father with two, what happened between that duration for him to say, yo, I'm out of here?
I think those are probably issues that he needed to get through and work through. He hasn't, I'm not privy to that information yet. I'm not.
That's the question.
After he left, then he had a son. And I've seen all of the things that I was telling him, like, hey, you have to be okay with your children, male, female, you have to be okay with them expressing emotions. But now that he's back into the girl's life, it's like, hey, I'm telling him, my oldest daughter, she's having a bad day. First of all, she's in the middle of puberty. She's almost 13. Every day is almost a bad day, guys. But it's like, he's like, wiped it off so quick, like, she'll be all right. And I'm just like, your son literally was crying because his tooth fell out. And we had to have a whole family discussion about it.
So, Misha, hold that thought. I want us real quick. I want us to segue into one of our shows that we were supposed to do last week. Daniel raised a question. D, I'm going to pass it to you. Can you tell us what that question is?
Ooh. Are humans?
I think it's time only off of what she just said. I think this is perfect time.
The perfect time. Yeah, I was about to say that too. But my question was, are we as humans meant to be monogamous?
Everybody quiet.
And so I challenged the team to go out and research it and come back with some facts on what they found, because I have been researching this and found a lot. So go ahead, Brittany. I know you're about to jump in there.
From the dough, out the dough. No, I do not believe that. Out the dough. I do not believe that men. I feel that women possibly, because the way our nature is. Men possibly not so much. Now, that was out the dough. We are long far since then. We are farther since then. So we have evolved. We have instituted marriage. We have, changed societies that where now, yes, monogamy is more acceptable. It should be practiced amongst most people if that's something that they choose to do. But to me personally, knowing how other cultures were, knowing how things were back, years in the past, I do not feel that that's the way it was set up to be now. Do I agree with that? No, but I don't.
BJ?
Understood.
Damn, I knew that was coming to me. Yeah, man. I mean,
I do. See if the kids need him real quick, y'all.
I can say that the practice of monogamy, it kind of slows down. Slows down some of the other factors, I guess, that could come in and allows me to concentrate on progression and on moving forward more so than like, what's the next piece of tail or whatnot that I'm gonna get, as long as that part of my life is solidified and good. And I mean, I don't really have to worry about that. I can focus on, the next thing, my company, my businesses, my, the things that are gonna like pay and feed the kids, that were made from these interactions, right?
So did you answer the question? I mean, I'm still, did we get an answer?
Yeah, he started out with yes. He said yes
Okay.
at the beginning.
Yeah, I say yes.
Yeah,
I mean, I was waiting for. I was like, yo, all of this shit sound good, but I'm waiting for the answer.
But I wait for the
Yes.
answer.
I say yes.
I see Rick got a lot to say though. I see it in his
I'm
face.
coming to
He's
him. I'm
talking
coming
with
to
his
him.
eyes.
I'm always bubbling. I'm always
I'm
bubbling.
coming to him. But I want to go to my favorite. I want to go to my favorite, Miss Charnetta Williams.
Yes. Come on, Charnetta. What you
Come on,
got for us?
Charnetta. Come on, sis.
You know what? No, yes. I mean, we're in different times, right? So to each their own. I'll speak personally. Yes, I would like a monogamous relationship. And I think that people should just discuss it ahead of time. Do I think it was meant from the beginning? I mean, in the beginning, yes, they had multiple wives and things like that, even in the Bible. So how it was meant, I don't know. But I know like now and how things are in society now and what I prefer and what I believe. I don't want to share my husband. I don't want other relationships. I don't want all that. No.
Right.
Yes, I want it monogamous. Safety reasons, there's tons of diseases, all this kind of stuff out there, that too. But in like the family unit, we're talking about fatherhood and all of that, like you can't be, even in those cultures though, where they do have multiple wives, like when they do something for one, they have to do something for every single one. And, can you keep up with that,
Yeah.
type of thing? Like, yeah, I prefer a monogamous relationship. And I think it can be done.
So let me ask you a question, Netta. Do you think the man who can't just stick with one, do you think that's some sort of like weakness that he has? Like, what do you believe that is? Why he can't just stick with one?
It's a decision. Like he's choosing not to. So, if I think he can, if he wants to, that's up to him.
So they say advantages are for a monogamous relationship is that you get all exclusive access to your partner. Like you guys mentioned STD less, and they said the intimacy. But then I was looking at the disadvantages and there were a lot of disadvantages, like reduced variety. Like, are you guys okay with being with this person for the rest of your life? Because sometimes you could fall out of love with people. They said it was jealousy. I was even surprised they got a dating site. I actually give you the name of the dating site. It's called Ashley Madison. It's a dating site.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that caters to married folks that are looking to cheat on their spouses. What?
Yeah.
Her list just got blew up a while ago. It got leaked.
I was say I remember the email list got blew up.
Yeah.
I
was like, what? Never heard of it, but they say the problem with monogamy is that you guys you forget yourselves in a relationship because you're making your other partner a priority. So when I was looking into it, I was like, you know what? A lot of times you are doing in a relationship, you are doing things to make your partner happy. You are learning how to compromise. And sometimes when people don't get to live their true selves, people tend to step out. People tend to go behind the back and try to seek what they want. So I do see it from both sides. I still want a monogamous relationship, but I could understand if somebody doesn't really believe in that. I get it.
Yeah, and I wasn't asking for the perspective of like, did you guys think, I knew all of us probably on here wanted a monogamous relationship. It was just when we were talking last week, it led me to think, as we talk about fathers not being there or fathers sometimes being absent, is it truly on the man to put all the blame, or is it something that's instinct in us? because of how we were created as humans. So that's where the question really was coming from, because our instinct may be to constantly be on the hunt and the prowl to always look for something.
What about you, Eric? You're the educator.
You asked for it. My foundation is off the Bible. So when I look at the Bible and look at Adam and Eve and how they were created, and they were created for each other and to support each other, then sin entered into the world because of deception. And that's when all of these other different type of relationships were allowed to happen, and then lust and wanting more. So yeah, Rich, we can go back to, living naked and everything else like that, but we got to get to the root of the issue, and that was that sin. So when man has choice, you're human. You're going to have choice. You're going to have the lust of the eye, the pride of flesh, and you're going to constantly look after, something else and never be truly satisfied. And when we look at these commandments, if you are a devout Christian, thou shalt not cover thy neighbor's wife. Thou shalt not, all these other things like that. So it was meant for us to live a monogamous relationship, but when sin enters the world, you now have a choice, and your choice is to continuously want more and desire after the flesh.
But Aaron, what about when Eve was created for someone else before you, though? Because if Eve had a previous marriage and then that didn't work, and then now you get married again, and then that don't work, and then you get married again.
That was not the original intent in Genesis, if we're following the Bible.
But that's what I'm saying. So when we say that, this person was created for this one person, I just don't see how that's true.
And how do you know who that one person is?
Right.
Because it was only the two of them at the beginning. I'm just saying. So of course she was made for him, and she was made, so it's only the two of us. But now I got 50,000 men, 100,000 women. How do we know who's for who?
Right. There was always somebody before you.
Well,
if I started this.
She had children.
No, I was just saying, when Charnetta brought up the point of the advantages and disadvantages, I read the same thing she read. The disadvantage list for monogamy was longer than the benefit. And that's when I really was like, whoa. It was like when one of the researchers said detrimental. When that word was used, I was like,
wow.
It just
that's
blew
a big
me.
word.
Yeah, they was like, it's detrimental, because they say we spend so much of our time trying to please others that we lose ourselves, and then it becomes detrimental because we can never go back and find ourselves.
If you have multiple people, you just got more people that you're trying to please.
Right.
Yeah, but so you didn't have to please them. In a polyamorous, it's about community. So it was just crazy.
Because that's in our nature to satisfy, people in our relationships. So
I'm doing all the pleasing, who's
getting more work to yourself.
Hold on,
go ahead, BJ. BJ just said it right there.
I'm saying, if I'm doing all the pleasing, who's pleasing me?
There you go. Say it again. Say it one more time. One more time for the people in the back.
If I'm doing all the pleasing, then who is pleasing me?
The person
you're pleasing yourself.
Is supposed to be pleasing you.
I have to maintain my own state of individuality at all times. At all times. Like, you have to, or else, like you say, you lose yourself in something else. And then you can't find who you are. But
then it also goes into making sure you find the right person, because I don't feel like every person, when you're finding that right person, you're not going to lose yourself in that person.
Right.
But you
do that when that's the wrong person. You're putting your energy in the wrong thing.
Very true, Brittany.
But
Brett,
like
maybe
that, right? Go ahead.
Brett, but maybe that person was right for the first 7 years, and then some shit done changed up, and they're no longer right.
That was a person for that season. That was a person for that season then. But when you're talking about marriage and I decided to marry you, we're not talking about seasons anymore. We're talking about our lifetime.
Right.
When I married you, I've now thought about that. I made that decision that, this is what it is. But
and you learn to grow together. That's how our grandparents did it.
You grow together?
Yeah, but you don't always grow together.
Do you?
And our grandparents didn't really grow together either.
So
they just made it seem like they grew together.
They forced it pretty much.
I think
that is true.
Because when I started hearing stories about my grandfather, I was like, I can't believe my grandma put up with it.
And remember, social media wasn't around when our grandparents wasn't around. The temptation was always there, but the level that temptation is at today is completely different than when our grandparents was around. So granted, like what we're dealing with now and the fight and the battle that we're dealing with now, the weapons are a lot stronger than what grandma and grandpa had to deal with.
I don't agree with that. I think the temptations were still there. We just didn't have social media to broadcast it.
And that's what I mean.
Oh, yes, with them Instagram models.
Like if Billy Joe was messing with Linda May down the street, Linda May couldn't. It was no way for Linda May to broadcast.
Billy Joe and Linda May. I love it.
That's what I'm saying. But even when you look at
so good.
besides social media, look at the way women dress. Look at the way women dress. Look at the way people carry themselves. The temptation is out there now. What now? Sex is that wasn't like that in the 50s, in the 40s.
Normal.
You know, back then
the norm.
it wasn't normal for a Fashion Nova to be. You know, y'all see what be out there.
Okay, I want to. Once you do decide to get married, I know Daniel's married. How do you just shift and change your focus from multiple women to one woman? How do you change that?
I think for me,
is it possible? That's what we're talking about. But I just want to know. Yeah,
it's possible. And then for me, it was the shift of how much I loved my wife and that I wouldn't want to hurt her or put her through any of the BS that, you know, would come with that. And then also the second part is of that connection that we had. Like there was nobody else that had my back the way that she did. And I'm not going to mess that up for 30, 45 minutes of slipping up somewhere else. So it more or less became a choice of, you know, one, you got to find the right partner, somebody that you mesh with. We may not grow together, but we understand where each person is moving. So that way we can support each other in that regard.
I always say
that's just how
Daniel,
I've always looked at it.
Daniel is so perfect. I always say that.
He is so
His
perfect.
responses are always so PG, always so clean.
That's good.
Choice. And you know,
I mean, I think it's just, again, your will to commit as a man to this woman and knowing that your consequences is going to like reap a heavy action. And at some point, somebody has to be this generational curse breaker. So if you come from a family of my parents were separated, my grandparents were separated, my grandparents cheated, my parents cheated, where does it stop? And do your kids have to be the person that, you know, try to break this curse? Or are you going to be the one that says, this is what a man and a woman married looks like growing up, raised in a house together, and I'm not willing to have any outside, you know, effects, you know, come into play.
Okay, BJ, and then Rex.
So I'm just keep it short and sweet.
30 seconds to eat.
I feel as if you shouldn't have to, if you're going to get married and you're going to marry a woman at the point, by the time you're going to marry her, you have already shifted. You know, it shouldn't be like a shift now that the ring is here. Now you got to flip the switch and turn it on. Like it's pretty much should be there by the time you guys say I do.
Okay. And Rex, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, real quick. She should be your friend. You shift, like he said, you shift from your boys being your friend to your lady becomes your best friend. My mate is my best friend. I mean, I've been with this one woman for 15 years. She's my best friend. I talk to her about everything. Now, granted, she's not a guy. I'm not going to go my best friend. I'm not going to go at my best friend like that. However, she's my best friend. I call her about everything. We talk about everything.
Okay.
So,
see, I ain't the only good guy on here.
Nice.
No. Listen. The reason why I went with Daniel first is because I wanted you to set the tone for it. Because I really believe if Ricks went first or BJ went first, it would have been a different conversation. For sure. So they followed after what you said, which was PG-13, and that's cool. All right. So in 30 seconds, starting with Brittany, final words about fatherhood in 30 seconds.
I feel like there was, like you said, there was the misconception that fathers weren't there. And believe it or not, there weren't a lot of fathers there. There weren't. In my generation, a lot of my friends, we didn't have our fathers, but I feel like that's changing. I feel like the new generation, I feel like either you have a lot of fathers that are coming back into their kids' life, and then you have this new generation of men that are stepping up and, like you said, deciding to break those generational curses. So I'm here for it. I love it. I'm happy for everything that's to come when it comes to our generation and how these men are acting and showing up. So yeah.
Nice. Misha?
my thing is going to be on single dads. I think like that is like the biggest demonstration of fatherhood. I love to see single dads because I feel like they really step up for their kids in so many areas, and probably because I didn't see that with my dad when I was younger. But I love to see single dads, and they're just at award ceremonies, learning how to do their daughter's hair, like that type of stuff, like those sacred moments that usually are like motherhood moments. I love to see that with dads, like single dads. So
Perfect. No.
To all the fathers and the fathers that, take care of the family, for the fathers that step in and take care of other kids' responsibilities, you are so appreciated. Just know that fathers are very important. And with Father's Day coming up, make your father some breakfast. If you have a boyfriend, rub his back. Tell them that you love them and that you appreciate them, because men need that too.
All right. And Netta.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. And if you are a father who maybe are not there because you feel like you don't have something to give, or that maybe the child is better off without you in their life, that's not true. All they want is you. They don't want, the money or, you to buy them gifts or whatever. Just be there, take them to the park, or, just spend time, all that quality time.
Aaron?
Fatherhood is a gift. I mean, however it happened, by accident, on purpose, planned, whatever, like it's a gift, and not everybody can achieve that status of being a father. There are plenty of men out here that wish that they could be a father. So for those that are, like, you have a big role and responsibility, and it was supposed to happen. So take that responsibility and bear it with pride.
All right, nice. BJ?
I keep it short and sweet.
BJ?
This is what fatherhood means.
Hey.
Guys,
That little Will.
Oh, look at the cute babies.
Nice.
Yes, cute children.
Yeah,
Yes, black magic. Yes. Okay, Will, I see you.
love it.
Black
Yeah.
All right, Rex.
Hey, I'm good. I mean, I got done. I'm tapped out.
Tapped out. Okay. And Daniel.
So I'm not gonna hit you with the PG-13 answer on this one, T, but I'm gonna just say this one. First, let me say Happy Father's Day. Secondly, I'm gonna say if you was a man who laid down with a woman and had a kid, step up and be there and be in that kid's life. There's a difference between being a father and being a dad. A father just simply was a sperm donor, and a dad is actually there taking care of his kid. So if that applies to you, look yourself in the mirror on this Father's Day and realize, are you a father or a dad? Happy Father's Day to the dads out there that are stepping up.
So good.
Yeah.
And I jotted down a couple of things. So the age of 8, 13, 20, and 26 are the pivotal moments for myself that I remember just hanging around my dad, those moments. So it's 4 times, believe it or not, and that's it. Fatherhood to me means it's a demonstration to be a man. And I think behind every stat, there is some sort of individual who is just there, whether the father decided to move on to another woman, a marriage, something like that, whatever the case may be, there's still kids who are left there without the dad being there. All right. So thank you guys for joining us. This is the season finale of Say It in 4. I'm Terrence Edwards. We have April Gooden, Timicia Blue, Charnetta Williams, Chanel Flagger, Brittany Crutchfield, Daniel Smith, Wilbert Ricks, Aaron Singleton, BJ Wise. Thank you guys for joining us.